acclaimed author Clive Cussler.
The hero, Dirk Pitt.
When he stood at his full height, he was 3 inches over 6 feet, and the lean, hard body under the dry suit strained at the seams. Mendoza knew without asking that this was Dirk Pitt. If you're half the man you're reported to be, you'll stop screwing around and get on the plane.
Deep 6, Episode 1, Sexy Sexy Death Zone.
And the podcat has arrived.
Yep, she heard me talking. Purr into the microphone.
She's a cat. She's not going to do what you want.
She's making out with the microphone.
She, I have a dog that will lick the inside of my elbow when he gets scared. So it's like, it's wrong, but it soothes him, like during thunderstorms. What do?
You let them. What's new with you?
I went to see Harrison show. It was fantastic.
Awesome.
He was fantastic and delightful. A crowd from every walk of life imaginable. What a diverse crowd in every respect. There was an 8-year-old there.
At a magic show, I can see that. I guess it all depends how much swearing he does.
Listed it, all of them, frequently.
Excellent.
He can't have a sentence without swearing, it seems. he told the kid to look up a particular swear word when he gets home. He spelled it out. Listeners, this one you're just going to have to buy a ticket and bring an 8-year-old, I guess.
I feel some kids are okay with that.
He was told specifically to write this down and look up this word. And his parents deserve that.
Excellent. I was reminded the other day, because there's lots of talk about the new Alien movie coming out and the casting for the new Predator movie. Years ago...
Girl has to die, she has to be a slut.
Sorry, the cat is on my keyboard, and I don't know how she activated that button.
I don't know. You would have that as a button?
Yeah. Along with...
Fuck you, buddy! Today I learned.
I had those as buttons in here. Anyway, me and my son, he was 9, we were in line to go see Predators at the movie theater, and somebody else in line was like, are you sure your son isn't, too young to see this movie?
Isn't your son 9 feet tall?
Well, at the time he was 9 years old, so he was only 6 feet tall. But
yeah, like 6 feet.
My response was to turn to my son and say, "What was your favorite part of Predator 2?" And he just instantly responds, "When the Predator rips out Hudson's spine in the subway."
Oh, excellent.
I'm like, he'll be fine. He already has a favorite part of the previous movie. We're good.
Every kid is different with age and vulgarness and stuff. I feel with live shows, if it says adults only, 18 and up, leave the kids at home. Movies, though,
yeah,
movies are so different. I saw movies as an 8, 9, 10-year-old that I would never let my son see, but my daughter saw at the same age, because they're just two different personalities. And every kid's different. Like he saw Jurassic Park. It kept him up for 3 days. And that's so tame. Meanwhile, the girl child is like, is there murder? We need more murder. She wants to see this movie called The Strangers. She sent me the link for the trailer. She's like, watch a trailer. Please watch a trailer. Please, please, please. And it looks so familiar. Like word for word familiar. And I was like, I saw this movie in 2008. I am not seeing this movie again. They remade it word for word.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I was like, Liv Tyler was in this movie. I've seen this movie.
I'm not sure which one The Strangers is.
It's a horror flick.
I imagine.
They're in a cabin in the woods, and bad people want to create mayhem. It's
excellent.
It's very boilerplate.
You're going to make this so difficult.
The cat wants to be on your lap, but also on the microphone.
Yeah.
And get cuddles.
She's settled down, and now she's chewing on my thumb.
Oh, and I've got a problem I will ask your opinion with. My neighbors have a new baby, less than 2 months old, very small, adorable. This is the prettiest baby I've ever seen. Like, it's a lot. Like, I was shook when I saw it. I was like, I've never seen a beautiful. Like, all babies are beautiful, and, when they're healthy, it's amazing. And when they're not healthy, it's a challenge to overcome, yada, yada. But, like, this looked like a cartoon baby. I was like, your baby's oddly attractive. Not sexy, but, like, goddamn.
Phrasing.
Like, what do you? It took me off guard.
I think the word you want to use is photogenic.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, it is.
Your baby could be in movies.
I that's what I told him. Like, that baby's a movie star, clearly. And my other neighbors were so excited. They're older and they're not from this country, but they have a grandniece who came out as lesbian, and they were like, "We have our first gay in the family." They were so excited.
They were so happy.
I was like, it's probably not the first.
Excellent. At last, they can take part in Pride.
They got the flag. They are kitted out.
Excellent. In that sense, Pride merch is a really good thing.
Yes, as we all head racingly towards the heat death of our planet.
Yeah.
But we've got merch. Ow. Oh, the cat just tried to kill you.
The claws are coming. Just sleep.
Anything new with you? And your weather's changing? And you can go outside?
Yep. Well, we're due for thunderstorms today, and then it looks like it's going to be a week of heat.
Did you have a spring?
Our spring was rain and rain
Okay.
and some more rain, and then it rained.
And then it rained some more.
Which is nice for up here, just because we had a very brief wildfire season, and then it rained for like 2 weeks, so it's kind of put the lid back on the wildfires. Anything to keep the fires down is good in my books.
That is a good thing. That is. We had a fire season last year, but hopefully that's not a new tradition. But climate change, who knows? I have a cousin-in-law that called us up, and the last time I saw him, he was gifted he inherited a Lexus, and I had driven this Lexus. This Lexus was amazing, like amazeballs. It was a gallon to the mile for its efficiency. It was a worm on wheels. It was a fortress. And he inherited it like 20 years ago, but he just called to reminisce, and his car was taken out by the hail. Totally totaled.
Yeesh.
And for that, it was a tank. It was like an Abrams tank. I'm like, what is happening in Texas? Nothing good. All the time. Nothing good.
Extreme weather. Extreme hot, extreme cold, extreme wet, extreme dry. They just can't be mid.
And that's slide into, this is Cussler Hustlers. I am your host, Nancy. Over there is co-host Topper.
Hello.
And we're going to try not to race to being canceled with this latest book, Deep Six by Clive Cussler. I love the name Deep Six, but boy, does he get into it right away.
I was proud I actually thought up a tagline for the introduction to this episode.
Go for it.
Which is, welcome to Cussler Hustlers, the only podcast that somehow can't make money off of toxic masculinity.
That's brilliant. Yes.
All the other podcasts make a shitload of money from that.
Yes, they do. This is an excellent point. Very scientific-minded. Oh, and you ruined my life.
I get that a lot.
Taskmaster.
Ooh.
Master.
I got you.
I'm in.
Excellent.
I saw that guy, Greg Davies, in The Cleaner before I saw Taskmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Master. So I was already delighted with him. Have you seen The Cleaner?
Not yet. That's on my list of things to watch this summer, because once the kids are out of school and I have me time again, there's 5 shows I have to watch.
Oh, you have to watch The Cleaner. It's delightful. You will smile. It's not like, what was that show on Netflix? The Fall of the House of Usher. It was kind of deep and heavy. Beautiful. A must watch. But you left that show feeling something. The Cleaner, we're just going to have a good day.
Excellent.
It's just like sugar on top of ice cream. It's just fantastic.
I love Greg Davies. I watched his last stand-up special.
He has a stand-up special for, my time. Now I've got a schedule like yours. I'm scheduled for 6 weeks out.
He has, for somebody who is 6'8" and in his 50s, he has an incredibly active comedy style.
Yes, he moves a lot. And he does have the face fireworks thing. He's got a very engaging face.
Mm-hmm.
We're avoiding the book.
We are.
We'll circle it. We'll get to it from the sides. Listeners, welcome to Deep Six.
I knew what we were in for when the dedication page dedicates this book to a bunch of pubs.
4 bars. 4 bars went out of business, and they had to be mourned in the dedication to this book.
And 1 sentence into the prelude, I've already had to write down a sentence.
It was 1 sentence in.
But we meet this character, Estelle, who's on the deck of a ship, and she shyly shifts her breasts in her scoop-topped bikini. I think Clive, really has to get boobs in the first sentence to make sure the guys don't get bored and leave the book.
I think you're right, but this was also an example of him writing a woman like a woman. Like, you do that. You do look around, you make sure nobody's watching.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to adjust, because they're sacks of flesh that have no confines. Like, there's no angles. You can't, like, dock them someplace. They're always trying to emerge, so you always have to adjust.
I suppose in that sense, this prelude is pretty well written, because this is a woman who has robbed the bank where she worked and is now, like, skedaddling, leaving the country, and she's paranoid as fuck.
As I would be too. She robbed a bank twice.
Yes.
One day after another, like a boss lady.
The first day she didn't get enough money, and she's like, I have to do this again.
Yes, it's 1966. This lady, Estelle Wallace, she's a hottie, but Estelle is not her real name. We learned she was actually Arta Castellago, and she worked at a bank as a teller. Real ho-hum kind of thing. She had the job many years. So one day she gets some double sticky tape. No, one day she finds a lost passport.
Yes, I was going to say that was the impetus. A passport with a lady who kind of looks like her.
Spooky looks like her. They're almost the same age. They're within months of each other's birthdays. So Arta begins fantasizing. And what starts off as fantasizing ends with a plan. She's going to rob the bank that she works at, which, an inside job, to be respected. And she wears a long skirt, makes her hosiery double sticky-sided, and goes into the vault and sticks the money to her legs. First day, she only gets $50,000. Even in 1966, she's like, that's fucking peanuts.
I can't leave the country on that, yeah.
Yeah, you can't go on the lam. Your lam has to be fully loaded with money to go on the lam. So she goes back the second day and does it again. Real gutsy broad. And now she's assumed Miss Wallace, and she's in a bikini that she's trying to keep intact while on the deck of a ship she just boarded that morning.
Yeah, and $100,000 in 1966 money is almost exactly $1 million today. So that's leave the country money.
Oh, I'm sorry. She didn't just board that morning. This is the first time she's out of her cabin. She had been on board for 5 days, but hiding in her cabin because she was paranoid. Because she just robbed a bank twice.
I was like, oh, I don't feel good. Because this also isn't a cruise ship. It's like a cargo ship. And she just booked last-minute passage. And the captain's like, oh, yes, pretty lady, welcome aboard my ship. And
sure, and if you can...
please dine with the captain. It's like, not today.
But I do think most cargo vessels do this. There is a fee you could pay. You might not get luxury accommodations, but travel is travel. Sometimes you have to go places in an unexpected manner.
And if you don't mind getting there slow.
Real slow.
I also had to write down the sentence, or at the very least I paraphrased it, where she's talking with one of the officers, and she's like, boy, you seem to have a lot of Orientals in your crew.
Yes. And
and the officer insists, don't worry, it's not suspicious. But at our last port of call, 10 regular crew disappeared, and at the last minute, 10 Koreans volunteered to take their place. It's totally not suspicious.
Before that happens, while she's sunning, a cabin boy, so child labor, to be clear, approaches her shyly. He's trying not to look at her because she's in a bikini. And we find out he's also Asian. And as he walks away, she finds his gait, his manner of walking, irritating. Obsequious, even for an Asian, is what was written in the book. And I'm like, holy shit, Clive, are you drunk already? It's morning.
I had to write that down too, because obsequious means excessively servile. So this is like even more, you found a new level of being like bowing and scraping.
To an irritating degree. So
yeah.
You can't win. You're totally in service to another human being, and they're like, oh, you're trying too hard. You're a try-hard servant. Colonizers can never be satisfied.
I want my servants to have more self-confidence.
I want my servants to not make me uncomfortable with their servitude. And then she does take the invitation to dine with the captain, and she inquires, and she says, she's trying to flush out her new atmosphere, and she says, is it okay if I inquire about the cargo? And captain's like, oh, yes, it's titanium.
Well, the officer's like, we're carrying 10 loads of, and then the captain goes, titanium! Like, he butts in, because the officer was probably about to say something he wasn't supposed to say.
Like, radioactive potash, we're going to dump at Guam.
We don't talk about that.
I remember my dad telling me titanium came from space aliens. He really thought it came from the Roswell space crash. So that was a bit of memories. Titanium. He was like, it's a magical substance. You can scrunch it up, and it unfolds as a memory. I remember all of this lore about titanium. Then years later, I was working with titanium. I'm like, this is nothing like my youth promised it would be.
We learned about it in some of my engineering courses, and it's basically structurally the same as steel. It has a lot of the same properties as steel: modulus of elasticity, bending, flexure, torsion, compression. It just weighs half as much.
It's extremely light. It's aluminum
That's
light.
it.
Yeah. And hard to weld.
Hard to weld. It's non-corrosive. It's non-reactive. It's kind of a bitch that way.
It's good for medical parts if you need a new hip or something.
Exactly. It's very strong and it's very light and it doesn't corrode. You're just not going to make a building out of it.
Of childhood, like, you think, oh, when I have money, I can buy all the ice cream. Just the fanciful thoughts that were fleeting in youth.
No, when I'm older, I can have all the titanium and then they'll be sorry.
And then the aliens will be screwed. But there's no aliens in this book. Sorry, folks.
Only illegal aliens. Sorry, it was right there. I couldn't resist.
Oh my God. They're at sea. There's no laws.
I mean, later.
There's 10 new Asian crew members, and that's very suspicious. Dun, dun, dun. 10 people switched out at shore, which is a huge turnover. You have to ask the captain has to be asking himself, is he the problem? Because it always starts with the managerial staff.
Yes. I was going to say, we're only in the prelude. We got to
move along.
Anyway, she has dinner with the captain. The Asians serve drinks. She goes back to her cabin.
The boy Asian, the underage child servant, is the bartender, and he makes great daiquiris, as children of the 60s did. It was also depicted in Mad Men, where like the children had to make the cocktails and they just knew how to do it. Skills that have been lost.
If I make it wrong, Daddy hits me.
Oh, that's true. It's so sad. Pardon me while I move a dog.
Okay. Hi, Gordon.
Wait. Stop. Hurry up, boys. Hurry up.
The dog is helping.
There's just a new child in the house. Gordon. Love the name. Never met him before. Hi, Gordon.
There's not enough Gordons.
No, there isn't. It's a great name.
Unless you're in Canada, where all true Gordons come from.
They're all... Outside, boys, outside. Sorry, I am so sorry about that.
No problem.
Was expecting a new kid. These things never happen with non-podcasting.
Oh, God, no. Everyone is served drinks. They have dinner. Estelle retires to her cabin where she feels a sexual thrill at her crime because she's, like, reminiscing, I guess.
I would be thrilled at the crime, too, but this is where Clive doesn't write women well. I don't know. Maybe that's how he would feel if he robbed a bank twice in one day. I would feel like she's feeling a sense of accomplishment, like, whoa, an adrenaline come down, like, I cannot imagine. Sexual gratitude, it's not the vibe.
But then the vibe changes, and now she's paralyzed.
Completely paralyzed. Something in her drink, I'm led to assume, was a paralytic. She can't move a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
And she's chained up and carried. She sees the fourth crewman. She numbered them all. Oh, they already come numbered. First lieutenant, second lieutenant. And he's also tied up, and then they all get chucked overboard.
Specifically by the Asians.
I was trying to avoid that, but yes.
Well, it is, unfortunately, an important part of this book.
So it's hammered into this book.
It's so hammered in that even in my notes, every time I have to write the word Asians, it's capitalized, just to sort of keep track of how often this becomes a necessary plot beat.
And then that brings us to chapter 1, as the cat crosses the screen and gives us a nice wipe to the next chapter.
We got Part 1, The Pilot Town. Chapter 1, July 25th, 1989, Cook Inlet, Alaska. Which means this is 2 months after Night Probe, when Dirk Pitt charged the Canadian Parliament with a gun.
Yes. So this is the United States of Canada. We're living in a world of the United States of Canada. This is a vastly different world than when we first started the last book. We've got a whole new country, and we're in it. We're countrymen.
But also, this book came out in 1984, so he's getting closer to writing in so-called the present day, because first he was, like, writing in the future from 10 years out. Now he's writing in the future from 5 years out. So I guess in, like, 1990, he'll finally catch up.
I guess we'll have a dwindling of video phone calls and the major tech that when he was 15 years out, oh yeah, holographic phone calls are going to be on the table. 4 years out, you're going to be like, No, probably not.
I'll bet in the 90s we have like space lasers and shit.
Oh, there's going to be so many lasers. But yes, we get to July 25th, 1989. I don't know how the weather would be off of Alaska. Balmy, cold, whatever. Miserable. It's miserable weather. We meet Captain Amos Stover again.
Yeah.
We've seen him before, the Catawba.
Captain Dover and the Catawba from the beginning of Iceberg.
Yes. And I love the name Amos.
Yeah.
What a great old name. They come across a ghost ship, an unmanned ship that's kind of spooky. It had sent out a distress call, so all ships in the area were headed towards the distressed ship signal. The Catawba was the first to arrive, but they see no one on board. There's no sense of activity on the ship at all. It doesn't appear to be in distress. It's not sinking. It's not listing all of this nautical terms.
It's just hanging out, and there's no one there. So they send over a search party, and they find that everybody on the Amy Marie is dead, even the cat, and they all bled out.
Oh, yes, I wrote down even the cat, too.
And that's when they get an urgent radio message from a scientific party 30 miles away, who everyone's dead, and the message just ends with, like, save me, And the captain realizes, okay, there's something really weird here, and he's like, get everybody off the ship. But everybody on the ship is already dead.
Yes, he can't hail them, and the doctor was already en route, because the original search party wasn't surfacing, and they did relay to the Catawba that everybody on board was dead and horrifically dead. Not just like lazily good-looking dead, like they're contorted, their skin is black and green. All indications of a heinous way out.
But by this point, it's too late. The doctor's already exposed. So over the radio, he describes all of the symptoms as he dies, which was actually really well written and pretty rough.
That was, well, in it, something I think a doctor would do.
Yeah. Just goes through all the symptoms as like his organs liquefy.
There have been plenty of doctors and scientists who have written down in their last notes, not that he's dead, but there's a doctor that has been getting bitten or stung by every bug imaginable to describe
My kids love him.
The sensation. The guy is interesting, but yeah, there are people that do heroic science, and when they're doing it on themselves, it is something to behold. When they're doing heroic science on other people, no good. But this time is good.
That's less heroic.
Chapter 2, we meet Oscar and Carolyn Lucas and their 2 daughters. Oscar is in the Secret Service presidential detail. I knew somebody on the presidential detail. He wasn't on the head of it. He wasn't like the head of security, but I was in this club, and for future law enforcement people of America, it was this 2-week deal, and we met a lot of Secret Service people, and they were telling us about their jobs. And this was 1996, so pre-9/11. And these guys were on the presidential detail, but the detail is huge. And some of them are assigned, as the stories they were telling us, not everything is like glamorous. Sometimes you're just assigned a semi-homeless person, and you have to take him to the movies because the president's going to be in town. And it's easier to keep this person who's made kind of like low-level threats and mutterings. So like they're dispersed to the crazies. They have like a normal crazy sheet, like, oh yeah, we got to keep these people occupied, because it wasn't worth like rounding them up.
It's more just keep them busy.
Yeah, because they're just crazy. And I was like, that's a great job.
A fascinating job.
Like so it's not just the people like there to catch bullets. It's also like a web of people dispersed into the world doing very bizarre jobs. He's like, one guy, I think he just made threats because he liked ice cream. I come to town, I have to take him. We bought this guy so much ice cream.
You brought up so much ice cream today.
I'm dieting.
Same here. Yeah, Oscar Lucas is complaining about the new president, who is the same one from Night Probe, and we still don't have his name. He's just the new president.
But this is the single man president, right? This is the flirty one?
No, this was after him. This was the new...
Oh, I forgot. Which one was the flirty one?
Flirty one was from Titanic. Like, he was the flirty one, he was single, and he was funding, was it Meta Section?
Yes. He went off with the scientist's wife.
Yes. As you do. It's like, I drove your husband insane. Are you busy Friday?
Wink, wink. Clearly not. So, we know there's a toxin on board the ship. Oh,
right. Sorry.
We're doing a book podcast, Topper. How dare you? You're frozen.
You froze.
Topper is frozen.
And we're back.
Well, that was exciting. Topper had a Kodak bear just burst into his house through the window. We had to pause. He cleaned up the glass. Obviously, he strangled the bear with his bare hands.
But unfortunately, it ate the router. Chapter 2, Presidential Hijinks.
Yes, presidential hijinks. The president is informed of the Catawba and what it's found.
I was just informed that it's knocking shit over on the back deck.
No, inside.
It's knocking over stuff inside.
You only live in extreme weather. You and your family are just like extremophiles. You paddleboard, you kayak, you mountain climb, everything extreme.
Just before the president finds that out, there's all this talk because Oscar is pissed off that the president is taking the presidential yacht, which I have dubbed Aquaforce One, to woo some politicians for a vote for something, blah, blah, blah. And Oscar's pissed off because he's like, I need 5 days to prepare, and he only has 2. And there's a lot of talk about what the Secret Service actually does.
Yes, there's the push and pull between security and privacy, and people that resent it or respect it. Boring. Off to the side.
The exciting stuff happens when it's like, there's an issue. Alaska's fucked.
Alaska's fucked. Something about Nerve Agent S. It takes a teaspoon and it will kill everything in the ocean.
Yep, we just have the reboot from Fast Death from Vixen 03.
Oh, yes.
Quick Death? It was QD.
And this time, the president has a secretary who is not sexy, just merely handsome. In her 40s and handsome.
She's in her 40s. She's super competent. Good for her.
She doesn't look like a dragon lady, or a burn victim. She's not a battle axe. She's just a lady good at her job. It was refreshing. But yes, we learned about Nerve Agent S.
Not much actually plot relevant happened. And Chapter 3.
We meet a sexy broad, Julie Mendoza.
From the EPA.
But she's in her 40s, so there's her she's got a timer on it. Her shelf life it's counting down.
She lands on a helicopter where Dirk is doing some sort of shipwrecky stuff. And she's like, where's Dirk Pitt? And somebody points underwater. And she's like, okay, is Al with him? And that person's like, no, that's me.
And she was nonplussed by any of it. She was like, okay, good to know. We need you on board a plane right away.
Yeah, she has some really good dialogue. Not so much in this chapter, but there's definitely some later on. But anyway, Dirk finally hops out of the water, and she's like, okay, we're going to Alaska. And Dirk is Dirk, and just kind of fucks with her for a while, and she has no time for it. She's like, people are dying. Get on the fucking airplane, you idiot. Your boss gave me permission to order you around. And Dirk's like, I like you.
Yes, she doesn't waste time. She's not trying to pander to him. She's just like, your stuff has already been packed. You're halfway there. You just don't know it, dumbass. Just get on the plane.
Al and Dirk are irreverent. Because I was like, oh man, I hope she packed my fishing gear. And Dirk's like, I'm going to race a caribou. And they're just like a couple of 8-year-olds going on a trip. And Mendoza's like, oh, Jesus Christ.
They both unquestioningly go to the second. She's moving fast. She's talking fast. She's giving you a sense of urgency. This is like a credit card scam person. If somebody's approaching you like this and trying to get you to a second location, no, you're being kidnapped. But it's a lady, so she's harmless.
And at the very end,
oh my God,
she remembers Sandecker's warning for dealing with Dirk, which is keep your eyes sharp and your legs crossed.
Can we have that as a drop, please?
He could con a great white shark into becoming a vegetarian. So keep a sharp eye and your legs crossed.
That is the Pitt girl motto going forwards, I feel.
And then Chapter 4, Sandecker's on a date. I thought he was married.
No, wait, because it was either Iceberg or Raise the Titanic, or they spent a lot of time talking about how he was one of Washington's most eligible bachelors, and everyone's trying to nail this, super fit Admiral 50-year-old.
As women do. They join clubs and stuff. They hand out flyers.
Have you seen that guy? He jogs while smoking. It's amazing.
He smells fantastic. He only smokes cigars and drinks whiskey. No other liquid touches his mouth.
But yet, he's on a date with an unusually attractive woman, Bonnie Cowan.
She's a fancy lawyer.
Yes.
And he gets called away from the date. Mysterious goon, henchman style, comes up and says, oh, there's been a problem. You have to come right away.
Who is it?
Goons.
Who?
Hired goons.
Hired goons?
And he's whisked away, but he does send Bonnie off. Dinner has been paid for, and a cab has been set up, which is great. That amount of planning has been lost to time. My husband can't buy his own socks.
Get yourself an Uber lady, okay?
Today we'll be like, I don't know how to do that. You're on your own, bye. Then will you some money?
No, I won't. I'm changing all my socials. But yeah, he gets whisked off to the Opera House, and he meets up with the Secret Service, and during the intermission, they have a meeting with the president. They get more news from Alaska. It's worse. A ferry disregarded the keep-away orders, And 312 people died by getting too near the Anne Marie.
How many people were on the ferry?
312.
That's like half of Alaska in 1986.
And they talk about how evacuating the region. And yeah, they say, but the Alaskans are too stubborn, especially when ordered to do something by the government.
Which is true. So that means put it off till the last second.
I know people from the northern BC and the Yukon, and yep, that's true.
It would have to be. Because if you were a sane, non-stubborn person, you'd just start walking south. But like my feeling with dealing with the movement of stubborn people, whether they're toddlers or the elderly, you have to start slow and work over a long period of time if they're very stubborn.
Mm-hmm. Hi, Gordon.
Putting off emergency evacuation until the end. Oh, best case scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's also a line because they buried all the fish that's been coming ashore, and the president says they'll need economic assistance. Uttered by no president ever.
Yeah.
Unless they meant Boeing.
Yeah, because they've had to cancel all the fishing because they found whales dead and they found entire colonies of seals dead.
A zone of death around this kennel.
And the zone of death is getting bigger and everyone's panicking because what if it evaporates? And then now it's airborne. Like, we got to find it. Oh, my God. Sandecker says, I've got Mendoza on it. She's the best in the business at water containment. And the president's like, you've got 48 hours.
Because that's reasonable. Why is he putting a time on this?
Because the president is also every police chief from every movie.
No, it takes what it takes. Just sacrifice people until you fill it up. Fill up the ocean, and then we're good.
Gotta pour some concrete up there.
Chapter 5, we begin the sexual harassment. Mendoza tries to be firm and professional with all the men, while Dirk is kind of asking her out and flirting with her while on comms all the time.
That was one thing I had to write down, basically an entire quick conversation they have. It starts off with them trying to lay out a plan for finding where the poison's coming from, how to find it underwater, find the source, bring up the barrels, and dispose of them with deep water injection. It's going to take submarines. It's going to take months. And Mendoza's like, we don't have months. We have days. Dirk says, what's my reward if I find it in 48 hours? And Mendoza says, what do you want it to be? Dirk responds with, are you as hard as you pretend? Mendoza says, harder. And Dirk says, then you decide.
That's an odd exchange, given biology.
There's a lot of dead people. They're in the middle of a death zone right now.
Yeah. Sexy, sexy death zone.
Focus, Dirk. Ooh, name of the episode.
And Mendoza's just trying to be polite but firm because she knows if she's too bitchy, she'll lose the respect of all of these men. So there's this needle she has to thread, which Clive Cussler details in the book, her little mind journey there. And I appreciated that. Like, yes, she is trying to thread the needle.
It was remarkably astute.
And they land on the Catawba. We're not sure if since the Catawba was close to the toxin or poison agent S, and we're not completely sure of the matter of transmission, they get the whole Dexter treatment once they land. They're ensconced in reams of plastic tubing to get them out of the aircraft into the vessel. There's no outside accommodations. And if you're outside, you're wearing a pressurized suit. So it's very confining.
Mm-hmm. Because this nerve toxin works by, if it gets on your skin anywhere, you're dead.
Yes, it's on your skin. And we don't know at this point if you can inhale it.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's not made clear if there's other means of transmission.
Yeah.
I'm assuming if it touches you, if you breathe it in, bad too.
Yeah. Chapter 6, we're back with the president. And there's lots of presidential stuff
Eastern Bloc politics.
Our viewpoint character is Oscar still, because he's in charge. The president is having Larimer and Moran on the yacht to try and sway them to his plan. And there's lots of talk about the commies and the Marxists and the Reds and the famine and the Eastern Bloc collapsing. And the president's whole plan is to basically give free food to the Eastern Bloc so they'll turn away from Russia and back to the West.
Which, it's a plan that may or may not have its merits, but it's really a backseat to the point of we're getting on board. The vessel is the Speaker of the House, who's in line for being president should unspeakable things happen. I'm not
sure if you can hear the rain, but I'm getting some weather right now.
That is loud rain. That is being thrown at you. It's not pouring rain, it's thrown rain.
It's raining sideways.
It's raining sideways!
When the sky turns green, then it's really bad. Or, you know what? You tell me, what color weather happens outside when you know, oh, this is bad?
It's not bad right now. And the sky was black earlier, but I think that's, above me. But The sky looks okay, but now it's raining sideways. Very windy. Yeah, we meet Larimer, who wears a brown suit with a vest. He always wears a brown suit with a vest, and he's just a raging alcoholic. We meet Moran, the Speaker of the House, who's corrupt and a schemer. And out of nowhere comes the fucking Vice President, which catches everybody off guard because he wasn't invited.
So the entire chain of command for the top 3 spots of the leadership of the U.S.
Yep.
Sorry about the dogs of the United States.
That's okay.
Is all in this boat. We've got a designated survivor situation happening.
Yeah, and we meet the president, who's described as an idealist with big plans to make the world better for everyone, because this is fiction.
And the vice president is tall.
Yes. Meanwhile, Oscar is talking to George Black Owl, an Indian. He's half Sioux.
Oh, yes.
They make little bighorn jokes. He's Indian, by the way. Did you remember?
Yes. We get the token George Black Owl, American Indian, when that term was still used. To see that in print, woof, that is time travel.
Yeah. I bet he's good at tracking, because...
Oh, God. Sentinel humor. And there's also a term tossed about Horatio Alger type.
Yeah.
Which the vice president is described as being, for those that don't know, that's rags to riches. See, pull yourself up by your own bootstraps kind of mythology.
Yeah, the vice president is described as being nice and quiet and focused on domestic issues, but no one's actually sure, like, what he really wants.
Yes, he's just a tall, pretty face that says, yes, everything's going to be okay to everyone. So everyone loves him.
No one can get a bead on him, and no one's sure why he's here. Because, again, he wasn't invited. But no one can tell the vice president to go away.
Yes, so the chief of staff Fawcett's like, I guess I have to give up my room and stay behind.
Yep.
And once he's off the boat, he's like, wait, there weren't invitations. He didn't miss an invitation. There were no invitations sent. How did he find out?
Yeah, because apparently just an hour before all this happened, the vice president comes charging out of his office and says, I've got a meeting, and just runs and gets a car and drives straight here. So there's shenanigans already happening.
So this administration just does not care about the Secret Service. They're just trying to outrun them at every step.
The Secret Service just exists to mess with their fun.
Yes. And then we go to Chapter 7, and Pitt and crew are taking water samples to determine the direction of the toxic spill, like a game of hot and cold. If there's more toxin here, we're closer. If there's less toxin, we're further away.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone is cooped up because of the toxic threat, and they're all kind of cranky.
The depth suddenly goes from 600 meters to 10.
And Dirk's like, I need pictures. We need to get a copter in the air. He's basically yelling, enhance, enhance. And the captain's like, we're the Coast Guard. We've got maps. And he nonchalantly opens a drawer and takes a very detailed, photorealistic map. And Dirk's like, kind of a stooge there. He's like, oh, okay. Guess we don't have to enhance.
And we should also point out that where they're investigating is right near the St. Augustine volcano, which was where the scientific expedition was working when they also died.
Yes, that is correct. Dirk is looking at these highly detailed sat photos, and he's like trying to redeem himself because he was just made to look a tiny bit foolish.
Yeah.
And you can't have that. At least Dirk can't. Not for a second. He's like, your boat's on the beach there. Dry as your girlfriend. Right there. Right on the beach.
Found it. You mean
you dumbasses?
It's in the shallows, and he's like, no, it's on shore. And they get out the binoculars, and there's a boat sort of sticking out of a rock slide.
Yes, but it's in the silt, it's in the sand, it's been there for a minute, so it's kind of blended in with the surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
But they have found the disappearing magic ship, the Pilot Town, where our heroine from Chapter 1 was last spotted before she went overboard.
I wasn't entirely sure because the boat that she boarded was the San Marino.
Oh, I figured it was painted over.
I assume...
That was speed of plot in my own head.
No, exactly. Like, I assume it's the same one because it was also mentioned twice in the prelude that it was a Liberty ship, which is the kind that you see so many of. And this is also a Liberty ship, so I'm assuming it's like a situation where they steal a ship, rename it, and make it do other stuff. And we'll find out later for sure. But yes, it's the Pilot Town, a ship that went missing in this area many, many years ago.
And it has been seen in various locations all around the world. So it's like the Jolly Roger. What's the ghost ship that if you see that when you're at sea, you're doomed?
The Mary Celeste? Oh, the one from SpongeBob, the Flying Dutchman?
Yes, the Flying Dutchman.
The one from SpongeBob.
From SpongeBob. It's It predates SpongeBob, for the record.
Yes, but whenever I hear the Flying Dutchman, I think of SpongeBob because it's a recurring character, and those are great episodes. Chapter 8 starts off with Dirk being a little sad that the boat is on land because now they don't need him. They can just get land crews to deal with the nerve toxin. He's like, oh, I'm so good at this, I worked myself out of a job.
Yes. And everyone is still garbed in their pressure suits.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, I'm not garbed. Clive's coming with all of the old-fashioned words now. They board the vessel. The chemist yells from the back. An unnamed chemist yells from the back, maybe we should wait for the lab guys? And of course, Dirk is like, no, why would we do that? This is just a volatile poison that kills instantly. We're going to go look. We're going to go poke around.
Dirk doesn't wait. They investigate the ship. It's completely empty. It's like, not just empty, it's stripped.
Void of any sign of life. There's no clothing. Things are very neat. Nothing's strewn about. If it had been salvaged or pirated, it would be a mess. But this is Nizapin and doesn't have much stuff on it.
But the cargo hold was welded shut.
Which was problematic because they wanted to get into the cargo hold.
Very deliberately. So they weld it open, and they find 10 barrels of nerve toxin, and just one of them's leaking.
Eureka!
Mission solved. Book's over.
Yes, I know.
We're done, listeners.
Oddly, no conflict in this book.
Unfortunately, we have to then escalate the conflict. Chapter 9, we meet the Soviet rep to the World Health Assembly, Alexei Lugovoy. Back to you. Sorry.
Just 1 second.
I'm fast forwarding.
In chapter 8, because the hold is welded shut, Pitt has his acetylene torch, and he cuts open the space and immediately goes through, while Clive is describing the jagged, white-hot edges of the molten metal surface that he just cut through. He's not going to wait till it cools off. No, just dive right through there. Like a chihuahua on crack.
You are correct. I missed that. Well, nothing bad ever happens to Dirk.
So don't wait for the lab. Run through the jagged metal. Oh yeah, it's also molten hot.
It's like Christmas for him.
You're right.
I found murder treasure.
Back to you, chapter 9.
Chapter 9, we meet Alexei Lugovoy, who gets either some crank calls or just wrong numbers from New York. Somebody's asking for Willie, and he's like, there is no Willie here. I realized that was Scottish, but also the Russian accent on the audiobook was a little weird.
Yeah, that was a journey, that sentence right there.
So he gets up, and
we got Scottish Willie from The Simpsons.
Oh, you speak like a poet, but you punch like one key.
So he's angry at these phone calls, and he gets up and he goes to an Oriental shipping line office to meet Madame Bougainville, a frail old Asian woman in a wheelchair.
With bright blue eyes.
Yes.
89 years old. And I believe that's also the name of a flower.
It is. Or I think that's a bougainvillea. Bougainvillea?
Yes. Yes.
Whatever.
Got an A at the end of it. And she's got a giant terracotta warrior statue of her very own.
It's a weird word, and reading that word made me think I read this book when I was a kid. Because I remember being obsessed with the word bougainville as a kid. And I'm like, what word even is that? I've never encountered that word before. So I think I read this when I was 8.
Listeners pre-35. Just so you know, you will get to a point where it's not whether you know something or don't. It's, did you know it and forget it and have to relearn it?
Mm-hmm.
After 45, you're like, oh, I gotta remember something? Oh, that...
The most recent version of that for me is a couple of years ago. I went through and watched all of M. Night Shyamalan's movies, and I was halfway through Devil when I remembered I'd seen it before.
Oh.
Which is not a great endorsement for how good that movie is, because I was halfway through and I went, oh, I saw this. Just completely slipped my mind the second I was done watching it.
I feel that way often. A lot of things are just ethereal cotton candy in the media market. They just dissolve once they're gone. But Lugovi has, he's pretty shaken by Madame Bougainville because she's indicates that if he doesn't complete his task within 10 days, he's going to be fish food.
Mm-hmm. And there's lots of talk about Lugovoy's project, and they talk around it, they hem, they haw. You start tomorrow, you have 10 days. He's like, no, it's too fast. But it's a brainwashing project. And they've proven that the brainwashing works. They have the staff, they have the facilities, they just need the people. And they're going to brainwash someone.
I can't wait to find out who.
I know.
And then we get back to sexual harassment in chapter 10. Dirk's like, come on, I'll take you out for Elk Casino. No, Elk
It's like,
Remington.
I found your nerve poison. Where's my reward?
Nothing sexier than a man who's like, I did something. Give me.
Yeah, and I had to write down the phrase, men admired women who could ramrod a dirty job and not be a bitch.
Fuck that. Why can't you be both?
I know.
Are men the only people allowed to be cranky while doing a dirty job? What bar is that?
Dirk is a bitch to every high-ranking officer he meets, including the president.
You ask for his ID, he punches you, so you will need dentures if you ask him for a form of identification. This lady can't cross her eyes at somebody.
No, she maintained the thin veneer of politeness. Good for her.
She grinds her teeth to stubs. Why is she so angry all the time? No idea.
They find all the nerve poison. They make a plan for dealing with it. Dirk's like, well, I guess I'm out of here. And on the way out, finds a bomb.
Yes, but to put a hat in a hat, also a volcano explosion.
He finds a bomb. He talks with the captain. They find 4 more bombs wired to a timer, but it looks like the timer failed, so the bombs just didn't go off. So he theorizes the plan was that they were going to scuttle this ship and like get the insurance money.
Sure.
But the bombs didn't go off, the timers didn't go off, and nobody was going to get back on board the ship to check on the timer because they're probably going to get their asses blown up.
That's how you would know if somebody was a firecracker enthusiast in Brooklyn, because they went back. They're missing some digits because they went back to relight the fuse.
Yeah. So while he's getting the bombs, the freaking volcano explodes.
Yeah, that's some bad timing. And also, like, narratively, bombs and a volcano. Bit much. Just take it down a notch, Clive.
Bombs, nerve toxin, and a volcano.
It's stretched out a tiny bit.
There's a hat on a poisonous hat here.
Swimming in a sea of hats. It's hats all the way down. But we glossed over, there was no markings on the ship. So even though it was labeled Pilot Town, there was no serial numbers, nothing with the plaques that should be on it. They have the ship VIN.
Everything was stripped. Like, Dirk/Clive goes into detail about, like, the gauges are gone. Everything is gone. Everything worth more than $1 is gone from this ship.
But Dirk does find a boilerplate.
Yes.
And the plate was faced to the wall, so I guess that's why it wasn't stripped out. He memorizes the serial number. Which, under duress, I'm sure his memory will be flawless, because that's how humans operate.
Because nothing weird happens in the ensuing minutes. But unfortunately, Pitt's, I don't know what you call it, area of effect kills Mendoza. Because she's the only person who gets a puncture in her suit when the volcano explodes.
And she was next to a barrel of poison substance. So Agent S gets into her horribly broken leg. Clive wrote it very detailed. Bone breached the pressure suit and popped it. Oh.
She died bad. And Pitt swears revenge.
Yes, he's known her moments. So
he asked her out.
The eternal flame of love will light the world forever.
He asked her out, and the minute she says yes, she dies, and now it's personal. So now Pitt has motivation for the rest of the book.
He never has, like, acquaintances, this guy. So, blood oath.
You're either, like, enemies.
I'm with you until the end, or you're 35.
Enemies, friends, or people I'm about to have sex with before they die.
Then, chapter 11. The president encounters an under-helmsman who's going to bring him a drink, and he realizes it's not the regular crewman, it's a Korean man.
Mm-hmm.
And the president, in order to stroke his ego, is like, why'd you join the Coast Guard? He's trying to get a sense of the young man doing all of the puffery and verbiage that a politician would do to be folksy.
Also, he asks this person if he's Chinese, and he goes, no, sir, Korean. They really have to point that out. And also the giant gap in the Korean kid's teeth.
Did this book come out, like, right after Raiders of the Lost Ark? Maybe there was a...
84, yeah, probably. Before this, though, there's a whole lot of talk. There's the VP and Larimer and Moran and the president. There's a lot of talk about the Russians are starving, the Poles and the Hungarians, our pigs eat better than they do, which isn't true because I had to write this down. The average Russian was consuming more calories than their American counterparts, especially in the 80s. Yes, they went through periods of economic hardship, or they went through periods of forced industrialization and military buildup, but when that happens in America and people go hungry, that's a good thing. when it happens in Russia and people go hungry, that's a bad thing.
Also, kudos for the book report right there. Listeners, you just got information, real information. Nobody asked Hopper for that. He did that for you. Appreciate it. You learned something. And this would have been a Gorbachev time about.
Yeah. Larimer's big objection is, why hand out aid money to commies when Americans need it? It's just, we have problems here at home. Okay, let's solve the problems here at home. No.
Yes.
It's just that argument, and this was 40 years ago.
Don't pay attention too hard, because it's all very depressing. Politics and the representation thereof. But
yeah.
Hey, our country's going to vote between three people that have one brain between them. The rest is made up with naps and brainworms.
Yeah, we're watching up
and
here
felonies.
In Canada, just going, oh my God, because we're about to have an election, and we have it's basically going to come down to Trudeau or Poilievre, and Poilievre is known as Fascist Millhouse up here. Who's just like a little wiener in a suit who's like, we're going to save the country.
It's kind of a metal nickname, though. Fascist Millhouse.
Yeah. All of our candidates are young and vital, but the only good one's not going to win. Anyway,
chapter...
I'll get off my soapbox.
You're getting the sense of foreboding. The president's unaware.
Yes.
The president's just doing crowd work, trying to win a new voter on board his own ship. But the audience, knows he's Korean. So dun dun dun.
In this book, chapter 12 is where shit goes sideways.
And then chapter 12, the president is on a boat that is missing. It is evaporated.
Yeah.
Along with, they lost an agent.
There's super duper fog rolls in out of nowhere. They're getting interference specifically on their frequencies. There's radar obstructions and they can't figure it out. And the Secret Service is like, oh, that's weird. Let's keep going. I'm sure it's fine. Post 8 goes silent, like they're missing a Secret Service agent, and he's like, now I'm starting to get suspicious.
Yes, they keep radioing him, and he gives out instructions for the next spot to some person he can't see who he assumes is the next agent.
Yeah, because immediately after talking about how they're getting interference on specifically their radio frequency, that's when shift change happens, and he gives all the orders for shift change, knowing that there's...
Into the void.
Yes. Either into the void or somebody who knows what their radio frequency is.
He's a very useful idiot.
Mm-hmm. The Secret Service was not great in the 80s.
And that is the end of part 1. And this...
I was going to say that there's a teensy bit more. Black Owl is the first to think there's something wrong. And Oscar, the fog bank moves, they run onto the ship, and everyone's gone. And they find Agent McGrath in the deck house, zoned out, horrified, pale, and he's like, for Christ's sake, is the president safe? And he's like, everyone's gone. And he's terrified. And that's the end of part 1.
That is the end of part 1. We did a whole part in 1 episode.
I wasn't sure we could do it, yeah. Because we started off real slow, but then most of these chapters you can do pretty quickly. Because this is one of the books where we're going to have 70 chapters, just bang, bang, bang. We got shit to do.
Yes, and that was delightful. Glad to see you, Topper. I don't know when I'm going to see you next. Saturday night we have our crossover episode.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I am so jealous of all the messaging you guys have been able to do back and forth. And I'm like, I got to participate. I'm just... Every time if I'm not talking to you, I'm digging a hole. I swear to God.
I know.
Verbally digging a hole with an elderly person telling them they can't drive anymore, or I'm actually digging a hole.
I'm
holding
glad.
a baby.
I'm glad this can be a break for you.
It is delightful, and I miss it. Bye, adult.
Bye. Bye, Gordon.
Yes, but I'll have to meet him formally now and find out if his mother knows he's here.
I have your child.
There's a mystery or two or three, and This has been Cussler Hustlers. Your hosts have been Topper and Nancy. Find us on Twitter and Instagram at Cussler.